the recipe that survived a revolution. It was cooked in silence, while the world outside was tearing itself apart. No one imagined it would outlive the chaos surrounding it. This story matters today because food is often treated as trend, content, or branding. But in moments of collapse, recipes become something else entirely. They become memory, resistance, and survival. To understand how one recipe endured a revolution, we need to return to a time when cooking was not about expression but preservation. Because even now, culture is still tested most brutally during upheaval. The recipe existed long before conflict arrived. It belonged to a family, not a restaurant. Passed through repetition, not instruction. Ingredients were chosen by availability, not precision. The dish carried no name. It did not need one. It simply worked. When the revolution began, everything changed at once. Markets emptied, supply chains collapsed. Familiar ingredients vanished overnight. Families adapted quickly, replacing what was missing with whatever could be found. But this recipe resisted alteration. Its core could bend, but not break. Cooking it became ritual, a way to impose order on disorder. While streets filled with noise and fear, kitchens stayed focused. Measurements were approximated by touch. Timing followed instinct. The act of cooking became grounding. As shortages worsened, the recipe simplified. Fewer elements, shorter preparation, nothing wasted, yet the essence remained intact. Even stripped down, it carried recognition, a taste that reminded people who they were before everything fractured. Neighbors gathered quietly. Portions were shared without ceremony. The dish crossed thresholds without permission. It fed more than hunger. It fed continuity. Years passed before the chaos settled. Borders shifted. Power changed hands. But the recipe survived intact, carried through memory instead of documentation. What no one realized then was that this act of preservation would eventually transform something private into something collective. And that transformation was only just beginning. When the revolution finally subsided, the city felt unfamiliar. Buildings remained, but rhythms had changed. Markets reopened with different faces. Ingredients returned slowly, sometimes altered, sometimes replaced entirely. The recipe reemerged cautiously. It had been shaped by scarcity, and abundance now felt dangerous. Families hesitated to embellish it. They feared losing what hardship had preserved. Cooking it carried new meaning. It no longer symbolized survival alone. It symbolized continuity, proof that something had passed through upheaval without dissolving. People began sharing it beyond necessity. What was once private became communal by choice. Neighbors who had eaten together in silence now gathered in calmer times. The recipe bridged memory and relief. Over time, variations appeared. Not innovations, but adaptations shaped by place. Each household added subtle differences. Yet everyone recognized the core immediately. The flavor carried shared history. A small eatery noticed a reaction. The owner had grown up eating the dish during the revolution. Preparing it publicly felt risky. Turning survival into service risked dilution. But curiosity pushed forward. The dish was added quietly. No explanation. No context. It appeared among others, unmarked. Guests responded unexpectedly. They slowed down. Conversations paused. Some tasted recognition without understanding why. Words spread carefully, not through praise, but through emotion. People described how it made them feel, rather than how it tasted. The dish resisted categorization. It wasn't nostalgic. It wasn't modern. It simply felt anchored. As interest grew, the eatery faced pressure. Requests for the recipe increased. Outsiders wanted authenticity defined. Investors smelled potential. But the dish had survived by refusing to be fixed. And the next chapter would test whether that flexibility could endure peace as well as endure chaos. As attention intensified, the recipe entered unfamiliar territory. What once survived quietly now attracted interpretation. Journalists asked for origins. Chefs asked for technique. Visitors asked for meaning. Each question tried to pin something that had survived by staying fluid. The eatery struggled with visibility. Success brought expectation. Expectation demanded consistency. Consistency threatened the very adaptability that kept the dish alive through crisis. Fixing the recipe felt like freezing it in time. Inside the kitchen, debate emerged. Some argue for preservation through documentation. Write it down, standardize it, protect it from distortion. Others warned that doing so would hollow it out. The recipe was never meant to be exact. It was meant to respond. The owner remembered cooking it during the hardest days. Substitutions were not creative choices. They were acts of necessity. The recipe's power came from that resilience, from its willingness to change without losing itself. Despite this, pressure mounted. Food critics demanded clarity. Cultural institutions wanted certification. Labels promised legitimacy. Each offer came with trade-offs, recognition in exchange for rigidity. The turning point came quietly. A visiting chef recreated the dish after tasting it once. The version was technically perfect, balanced, polished, and unmistakably wrong. The owner tasted it and understood immediately. The flavor was present, but the weight was gone. The dish no longer carried memory. It carried interpretation. That moment clarified the risk. Preservation through control would erase the very thing people felt. The recipe did not need guarding. It needed trust. So the eatery made a controversial choice. The dish would remain undocumented. No official version. No protected status. Anyone could cook it, but no one could claim it. The recipe returned to what it had always been. Shared, adaptable, alive, and in choosing imperfection over authority, it revealed its most enduring strength. The meaning of the recipe settled over time, not through recognition, but through repetition. It continued appearing in kitchens that had never known the revolution firsthand. Parents cooked it for children who asked no questions. The dish carried forward without explanation. The eatery never trademarked it, never defined it. When asked for authenticity, the answer remained the same. If it feels right, it is. That refusal frustrated institutions, but protected the soul of the dish. As years passed, versions multiplied. Some were richer, others simpler. Some barely resembled the original. Yet, whenever the core appeared, people felt it immediately. Not nostalgia, not novelty. Familiarity without memory. The recipe had outlived ideology, borders, and ownership. It survived because it belonged to no one. It asked only to be cooked. Today, in a world eager to package culture into products, this story carries a quiet warning. What survives the longest is rarely what is protected most aggressively. It is what is trusted to adapt. The recipe did not endure the revolution by staying pure. It endured by staying human. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future. The